I want to read to you the story and then show you the, I consider it, wine mom, suburban Biden supporter meltdown at the sheer outrage of the New York Times reporting this. New York Times, by the way, very timid headline. I think it's a lot more corrupt than the New York Times says. But Biden's aides tied to consulting and investment firm poses ethics test. When you actually read the story, you'll know, ooh, did the New York Times undersell it? One firm, let me zoom in so you can read it. One firm helps companies navigate global risks and the political and procedural ins and outs of Washington. The other is an investment fund with a particular interest in military contractors. But the consulting firm West Exec Advisors and the investment fund Pine Island Capital Partners call themselves strategic partners and have featured an overlapping roster of politically connected officials, including some of the most prominent names on President-elect Biden's team and others under consideration for high-ranking posts. Now the Biden team's links to these entities are presenting the incoming administration with its first test of transparency and ethics. Oh, its first test. Oh, boy. The two firms are examples of how former officials leverage their expertise, connections, and access on behalf of corporations and other interests without, in some cases, disclosing details about their work, including the names of clients or what they are paid. So let's follow along with this, shall we? So, and when those officials cycle back into government positions, as Democrats affiliated with West X and Pine Island are now, they bring with them questions about whether they might favor or give special access to the companies they had worked with in the private sector. West X founders include Tony Blinken, Mr. Biden's choice for Secretary of State, and Michelle Flournoy, who, as of now, is the leading contender for defense secretary. She would have been Hillary Clinton's defense secretary if Hillary didn't blow the election. Among others to come out of West X are Avril Haines, Biden's pick for Director of National Intelligence, Christina Killingsworth, who is helping the president-elect organize his White House budget office, Eli Ratner, who is helping organize the Biden transition at the Pentagon, and Jen Psaki, an advisor on Biden's transition team, who was also with Obama's administration. West X did not respond when asked for a list of clients. How shocking. But according to people familiar with the arrangement, they include Shield AI, San Diego-based company that makes surveillance drones, and signed a contract worth as much as $7.2 million with the Air Force this year to deliver artificial intelligence tools to help drones operate in combat missions. We know President Obama was the drone king. Donald Trump continued Obama's droning all over the world. Didn't get a lot of attention because why should they care about Donald Trump droning the Middle East and bombing people if it has nothing to do with Russia, which is all the media cared about. At the same time, Blinken and Ms. Flournoy have served as advisors to Pine Island Capital, which this month raised $218 million for a new fund to finance investments in military and aerospace companies, among other targets. The team recruited by Pine Island, which is led by John Thain, the chief executive of Merrill Lynch. Oh, God. At the time of its collapse in 2008, during the recession and sale to Bank of America, was chosen based on its members' quote, access, network, and expertise to help the company, quote, take advantage of the current and future opportunities present in the aerospace, defense, and government services industries, including artificial intelligence, according to the SEC filing in September. I want to skip around here for a second. David Sirota has something, wrote about this also. Quote, the reputations and networks of Pine Island's capital partners team, both individually and collectively, will ensure exposure to a significant number of proprietary opportunities, the company said in one SEC document. So, keyword, and networks will give them significant number of proprietary opportunities to sell contracts for weapons, surveillance systems, cybersecurity systems to cash in on Biden's continuation of the military-industrial complex. The quote continues, quote, "We believe there will be increased demand in the U.S. defense market for advanced electronics, communications, sensor and detection processing, and other technologies that enhance the modernization efforts of the Department of Defense military readiness. We believe this demand represents strong growth that our management team is uniquely positioned to capitalize on, giving our combined investment experience and deeply connected partner group of former U.S. defense and government officials." Well, it's not just that you have former defense officials. You're going to have active U.S. defense leaders and cabinet officials who literally just came from your company, now serving in Biden's cabinet and top advisor positions. The company says Stain, the Merrill Lynch goon, and CEO Philip Cooper founded the firm, quote, "on the idea that a talented group of accomplished, highly respected, commercially savvy, and long-tenured former government and military officials, when fully aligned and engaged, could enable a first-class investment team with better access." Remember, I'm emphasizing key words. Access, network, better information, better expertise, and better management skills. David Sirota got a quote from David Segal, quote, "This is so explicit that it's astonishing Pine Island even put it on paper," said David Siegel of Demand Progress, grassroots group, pressuring Biden to reject cabinet appointments tied to corporations. Quote, "This is not an example of people who happen to work at a big company. These are partners at a firm whose stated business model is to profit from the revolving door and connections gained from time in government." Not to mention, the New York Times referenced it, Pine Island announced its $200 million public offering after the election and projects COVID-related profits. Again, Michelle Flournoy, Tony Blinken were involved with Pine Island. On November 16th, 2 weeks after Election Day, Pine Island announced an initial public offering of $200 million in its new investment vehicle called Pine Island Acquisition Corp. In that filing, the company suggests that because of its ties to former government officials, it will have an advantage in investing and specifically boasts its team includes Michelle Flournoy, who, again, it's all but over that she's going to be the defense secretary. Quote, "Pine Island Partners spends the majority of its time focused in the aerospace, defense, and government services sectors, where Pine Island Capital Partners believes it has extensive connections." So here we're hearing it. Network, access, connections to industry leaders, unusual access to information, and often unique insights into specific companies, programs, and overall market dynamics. Quote, "The reputations and networks of Pine Island Capital's partner team, both individually and collectively, will ensure exposure to a significant number of proprietary opportunities." Here is the part where they're talking about profiting off of the pandemic. "We further believe COVID-19 will be a tailwind for the sector. Quote, "Critical to any successful government services offering is the skill set, integrity, and security clearances of those who execute on its strategy. Our deep bench of connected advisors and former government officials will be the catalyst to recruiting, retaining, and developing an elite team of managers and employees, which we believe will enable us to exploit an opportunity in government services." The financial relationship between Blinken, Flournoy, Austin, and Pine Island could in theory be detailed as part of the Senate confirmation process. However, government ethics regulations allow that information to be concealed if nominees assert that they signed non-disclosure agreements with counterparties. By the way, that's already happening. Anthony Blinken, for his vetting to be Secretary of State, has not disclosed all of the defense clients that he did work for, consulting with, when he was at Tony Blinken and Michelle Flournoy. Again, the nominee for Secretary of State, the soon-to-be nominee for Michelle Flournoy, and the soon-to-be Defense Secretary nominee Michelle Flournoy, unless this gets bigger and Biden is pressured to not do that. They created West Exec and were consultants for Pine Island. And essentially, Tony Blinken with Michelle Flournoy, they are part of this endless revolving door. Michelle Flournoy worked in Bill Clinton's administration, Obama's administration, Tony Blinken, same thing. And they come and go like a revolving door. They work in the government, then they cash in on their government experience, going to create these consulting firms. They serve as the bridge for defense contractors to land contracts with government agencies, because those government agencies are in large part still being run by people they worked with. So you see that, as Hillary said, my public-private position. There's a public position and a private position. These folks are going through that public-private position as their being. Let's get down to it. Bottom line, Tony Blinken, Michelle Flournoy, and these other people have profited personally off of serving in previous administrations. I'm not going to condemn them because that's just the way it is. It's wrong, but they're not the first two to do that. So they're not some, out of the ordinary species. They've cashed in because, just like we don't have term limits in our government, we also really don't have real, with teeth in them, prohibitions on public servants then going to be lobbyists, then going to be defense consultants and whatnot. Tony Blinken and Michelle Flournoy helped land massive contracts for defense contractors, aerospace, cybersecurity, you name it, under the Trump administration, and they are now in the Biden administration, or one of them is. The other one will probably be. Their networks, their connections, their access. Essentially, what this is the people that were landing the contracts for these corporations are now going to be in position to set defense and military policy to further enrich their their companies that they created and that they consulted for. Now, devil's advocate would say, well, Jordan, of course they're going to have to divest from West Exec and Pine Island if they are to become Secretary of State, if they are to become Defense Secretary. Yeah, that's fine. They might, but it's not going to prohibit them from cashing in once they leave office, because that's how DC is. They could divest while they're in office. They will have the incentive to set policy that helps West Exec, that helps Pine Island, and helping them means create business. If you're Secretary of State, if you're Defense Secretary, create business that calls for massive contracts for Boeing, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, other smaller defense contractors, cybersecurity, aerospace, drone technology, you name it. And I think cyber is going to become particularly big in the next few years. And if you create that business, well, you're going to have a nice payday waiting for you when you leave. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.